Hey guys, Jeffries here, and welcome back to Football Manager The Basics, FMTB for short. Last episode we were setting up tactics for set pieces for each of the formations. This is the last one that I did. That's all set up and ready to go. It's very, very defensive. All three centre backs stay back pretty much all of the time, including the wing backs. Strikers, they go forward but not too far forward, and it's very, very anti-football, like I've said before. However, this is going to be our flagship formation, the 4-2-3-1. Have we got a squad good enough to play in that formation, I hear you ask? Well, I think we do, but in case we don't, we need to train them in that art. So, first thing I want to do actually is look at staff and see who we've got. So we have Chris Lucchetti as our assistant manager. Our under-18s, we're not that worried about. Steve Carlin as our head of youth development. We have a player/goalkeeping coach by the name of David Lucas. We have a fitness coach who has probably the poorest fitness I think I've ever seen. Our physio is also pretty poor, and our chief scout is woeful. I think the best thing to do, and this is something that I would advise pretty much all of you who are starting in a lower league like this, is with the exception of your assistant manager to start with, sack everybody. So obviously we're new to this club. These guys were here under the previous regime, so you can offer them a mutual termination, and chances are they'll accept it. Now it does cost money, this, but this is probably the biggest amount of money you'll spend at the start of this game, and it is important that you do that. What we now do is we go search staff. We always keep that unrealistic transfers on. That's the assistant manager's job, which is why I chose to keep him. Staff role. We want a director of football to start with, and we preferably want one with good stats. So player ability and player potential. Let's take these down to 10, and we'll see who comes up. We've got Dave Bassett, ex-manager of course. Eric Cantona. Now he'd be a good one to have. Jez George from Cambridge. And Pat Willett. Now, again, it's a little bit more money, but Jez George from Cambridge is normally the one I go for, because you can see across the board, on average, he has pretty good stats. So we'd like Jez George. Now, we can only afford this amount in wages, and because of that, he might be a little bit iffy about joining us. But we have a promotion bonus as well, so we'll suggest these terms and see what he says. Okay, he's playing hardball, so what we now do is take it down to this offer again, and we click this button here and make it a non-negotiable offer. And even if he walks away like this, it means we're not splashing out lots and lots of money on a director of football that we know we can't afford. So we'll go to the next best one, which I believe, again across the board, is Cantona. And he wants 1,800. So I don't think there's much of a chance of us being able to afford him either. As you can see, he's pulled away. Dave Bassett is the next one after that. Sometimes you have to go through this process in order to find a decent director of football. And again, he's pulled out. So the final one we go for is Pat Willett. And he's very happy to accept our money. So we'll give him £800 a week with a small promotion bonus and a promotion wage rise. And that's that. He'll be joining us very, very shortly. What we now want to look for is a decent assistant manager. And in some ways it's a bit cruel what we're doing here, because we're using our current assistant manager to help us choose our next one. And again, Fleetwood haven't got the best in terms of reputation, and that's why we're struggling to actually find people to hire. This guy here though, Gary Pendry, seems to be our best option, and again, he wants more than we can afford to give him. So we'll give him a slightly higher promotion bonus, let's say 7,500. We'll make this non-negotiable, and he's accepted, which is brilliant. And because we've now got that, we can go into staff, we can go to Chris Lucchetti, and we can say thank you for all your work, but mutual termination, and he's agreed to it. And we look at our budget overall, and you can see we've only got a small wage budget and an even smaller transfer budget. But that will change. So now it's finally time to advance time. And it's actually the first time since I started this series that I've pressed the space bar to continue the game. And you can see here this is all the contracts being terminated. There's a few like this where it asks who's going to take charge of the under-21s. I'm not going to confirm that right now. I'm just going to leave that as default. Right, now we have our press conference. And again, you kind of want to get the fans and the board on side. So the first thing you do is you compliment the chairman. So you say things like, the fans are fortunate to have such an ambitious mind running things. And then you try and you get the fans on side. So you say things along the lines of, I'm happy with the direction we're going in. Things like this, you do not say. You try to avoid that as much as possible. So I'm going to go for this option here actually, because it's not quite brown-nosing, but at the same time it's not being pessimistic about things. I will undertake a complete evaluation of the staff and get rid of anyone I consider to be deadwood. Now that keeps the fans on side as well, because in their opinions, if they have a particular player or staff member that they weren't too keen on, you're basically saying that you will evaluate them and you will get rid of them if you don't think they're good enough. So it gives them that little bit of hope, gets them on side. I like this option because I don't want to constantly be working out players' problems, but at the same time I like them to know that I am there if they do definitely need me. The League 2 is definitely my main focus. I'm not prepared to talk about transfer policy right now, because if I say I want to improve my attack, my strikers will get upset. Likewise, if I say my goalkeeper, they'll get upset, and their morale will drop and their performances will drop as a result of that. So the best thing to do is just sit on the fence and say you're not prepared to talk about transfer policy. And again, they've basically just asked me the same question, so this time I'm going to say no comment. Now Conor McLaughlin, if we check out his stats, we can't get a report on him at the moment because we don't have any coaches, but it's widely expected that he will be leaving the club. I'm going to say this one. I would like to keep Conor around, but I know that may not be possible, because at the end of the day, if a team comes in with a big money offer, I don't want to reject it. So I want them to know that they can come in with a decent offer and I will accept it, without saying to the player, I want you gone, because again, lowers morale, and if he does end up staying, his performances will drop. So that is the press conference. It's done and dusted. So you can see the first thing that comes up is I've praised my ambitious chairman. Financial fair play. This comes into play a little bit later on in the game really. For now it doesn't really matter because we're under budget in both respects, so that's fine. Our director of football has arrived, Pat Willett. So we're going to accept him. And the other thing I forgot to check actually, I don't think it will let me do it now. No, I can't do this now because I haven't got an assistant manager. But once an assistant manager comes in, which is happening now with Pendry, we'll accept this. And the next thing we need, and this is very, very important as well, is a head of youth development. And this guy is pretty much as important. Oh, hang on. Let me advance time a second. Let's get the assistant manager actually in and working first. There we go. Right, I will deal with this in a second, but for now, we'll go on to this. Now, the head of youth development, I normally have him as the one who comes in and helps out with bringing in trialists and also signs youth players for the team. Right, Mark Kelly comes up first. He is a scout at Portsmouth, but his preferred role is a head of youth development, and we can use that to our advantage because that's exactly where we want him to be. So let's try and sign him. Now he wants £925 a week. We can only offer him £775 a week. We'll give him a big promotion bonus again of, let's say, 5.75 thousand. We can't give him anything else here or here. What we do want to do though is sign this guy because he is very important. But we'll play hardball with him, and you can see he's pulled out. Even though we more than doubled his wages and gave him the job that he wanted, I think it was just that the thought of having to move clubs he wasn't too keen on. So we'll go to the next best thing, which in this case is Gary Harrop, who comes from Torquay. And again, we can't afford his wages. And this is going to become a problem as the game goes on, trying to afford people's wages. So we've missed out on him as well. Let's go for David Hockaday, because he is unattached. He hasn't got a club. and because of that he's more desperate for a job, therefore we can afford his wages, so we'll give the job to him. I pressed this by mistake, but let's see if I can actually let me see. Actually, yes, I do want one to be reconsidered. I'd like to develop younger players and bring them through to be first team regulars. So that's the one I wanted to do. They're not willing to accept my amendments at this time. I've failed to convince them that it'll be in the club's best interest. Now that's interesting. That is something that I'll be wanting to talk about in later episodes actually, but for now I'm going to be ending this episode because time is pretty much up. So until next time guys, thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to click the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I will see you soon.